Amelia Finch regarded the crisp morning light filtering into her modest classroom at Acorn Alley Elementary. She was a patient and perceptive teacher, beloved by her students for her gentle manner and knack for making every lesson pop with curiosity. Today, she had planned a unit on the community's history, almond orchards that once thrived in the surrounding valleys, the first meeting hall built by pioneers, and the arrival of the railway that put tiny Acorn Alley on the map. It was a simple, pleasant lesson, until she opened an old cupboard stored beneath a dusty reading nook, searching for a storybook she recalled placing there months ago. Her hand brushed an object wrapped in a cloth, and out she pulled a very old scrapbook with a cover that read, "Where We Began." The scrapbook intrigued her immediately. Its cracked leather binding suggested it was decades old, if not older. The pages threatened to separate from the spine, so she handled them gently and began to read. Faded photographs of families waving from a community parade, children holding ribbons in front of the local sweet shop, and pages of typed words now smudged and yellowed. Amelia had found more than just a historic record. It seemed to hold secrets. On one dog-eared page was a short surname, Mortimer. Under it were cryptic references to the Grand Khan and all in it together. With each turn of the page, her eyes flickered with mounting curiosity. If the entire community was somehow involved in a Grand Khan, it was an unlikely morsel of scandal that could rewrite everything she thought she knew about her home. That afternoon, she carefully returned the scrapbook to its cloth covering and set it in her tote bag. She envisioned a trip to the library after class to find any references to the cryptic mention of Mortimer or the Grand Khan. Amelia was known for her thoroughness, so she wasn't about to let this mystery remain unsolved. Even in a quaint place like Acorn Alley, with its clean sidewalks, vibrant potted flowers, and cozy row of shops, ancient secrets could be tucked away in forgotten photo albums. She finished off her last lesson of the day, assigning her sixth graders a small research project on the local orchard's history. As the children scrambled and collected their belongings, Amelia opened her desk drawer to collect her car keys, but found her bicycle key instead. She had nearly forgotten she'd left her car in the repair shop for a few days. It was a perfect day for a ride anyway. The sky was blue, with a faint layer of wispy clouds. With the scrapbook tucked safely against her side, she headed out into the bright afternoon, gliding down Elm Street, past Harriet's homemade pies and the purple facade of La Bella's dress shop. Waves and friendly hellos greeted her at every turn, a typical day in the warm community she loved. The library was a humble stone building at the far end of Acorn Alley, perched near a trickling creek that wound through the eastern outskirts. It was staffed by Catherine Liu, a meticulous and cheery librarian with an encyclopedic memory for the town's historical holdings. Amelia parked her bicycle against the rack, marched up the wide stone steps, and pushed open the heavy oak door. Catherine peeked up from behind the desk, her half-moon glasses slipping down her nose. "What's that under your arm, Amelia?" she asked. Noticing the cloth bundle, Amelia smiled conspiratorially. "A relic, maybe, or a puzzle. I hoped you could help me figure out its origins." She carefully placed the scrapbook on the library counter and removed its covering. Catherine's eyes lit up at the sight of the antique binding and carefully laminated but aging photographs. "My goodness! Where did you find this? Acorn Alley's entire oral history might be hiding in these pages," Catherine exclaimed. She donned a pair of thin white gloves from a box beneath the counter and lifted the cover with practiced delicacy. "I see references to that old orchard, the train depot, people I recognize from old genealogies. Let's see, the Mortimer name? That was once quite prominent around here." Amelia recalled that Lucy Mortimer, an elderly woman known for her crocheted tea cozies, lived just across the road from the school. "Yes, Lucy Mortimer is still in town. She sometimes volunteers at the school, but the references here seem older. It mentions a Grand Con with the entire community involved. Do you think that's something to do with a town fundraiser? Or some old scandal?" Her heart fluttered at the possibility of hidden wrongdoing in her idyllic hometown. Catherine scanned the pages, flipping them carefully. "It's definitely odd. I see the phrase used more than once," she said, pointing to a particular page. "Look here. There's mention of a planned performance as part of the Grand Con. Maybe it wasn't a crime, but a staged event or hoax. This is from around 1954. She gently placed the scrapbook aside and motioned for Amelia to follow her to the library's local history section. The wooden shelves squeaked as Catherine ran her fingers across the spines, eventually plucking out a few volumes of old newspapers on microfilm. "We can check local mentions of Mortimer from the mid-1000, 950 SS. Let's see if anything lines up." While waiting for the microfilm machine to warm up, Amelia gazed absently at the framed black and white photos on the wall. Images of orchard workers, children skipping stones in the creek, the sprawling farmland that used to dominate the horizon. She mused silently on the phrase, "all in it together." It was such a curious statement. Did it imply a light-hearted group endeavour or a sinister scheme? Catherine loaded a spool of film and began clicking through headlines. Month by month, from 1953 onward, they scanned for Mortimer references. One article popped into view: "Festival celebration draws big crowd." A subhead read, "Acorn Alley residents thrilled by visiting artist." Further down, in reference to that artist, the name Mortimer appeared. The story detailed an unusual event. A travelling portrait painter named Jasper Mortimer visited the town's festival and offered to paint townsfolk's likenesses for a nominal fee. But the microfilm's text ended abruptly, the rest missing due to damage. Catherine murmured, her forehead creasing with disappointment. "We might need to cross-reference another source. Let me try earlier in 1954. She clicked a few frames back. Another mention of Jasper Mortimer appeared, describing him as the widely rumoured magician with a brush who had promised something special to the people of Acorn Alley. Amelia's stomach flipped. A magician with a brush? A con? After an hour of scouring film reels, Catherine switched gears, searching for references to the orchard, parades, or any mention of a con. Nothing definitive emerged, though a snippet referred to a hush-hush arrangement that gave Acorn Alley a strange windfall. In the margin was a phrase about payoff for a job well done. The cryptic references only raised Amelia's curiosity. She thanked Catherine, packed up, and left with more questions than answers. On her way out, Amelia spotted a familiar figure near a leafy patch of hollyhocks. Lucy Mortimer. The old woman was kneeling there without a hat, her silvery curls gleaming in the afternoon sun. She often came to the library to check out knitting patterns, but she wasn't inside today. Instead, she appeared to be tending to the library's garden bed. Seizing the opportunity, Amelia approached calmly. "Good afternoon, Lucy," she said in a gentle voice. Lucy looked up, her warm blue eyes bright. "Hello, dear. I heard you were inside with Catherine. Studying something intriguing, perhaps?" Amelia weighed for a moment how much to reveal. Then, summoning her best teacherly courtesy, she explained, "I found an old scrapbook in a storage cupboard at school. It mentions a Mortimer and a Grand Con in the 1950s. I noticed your surname. I wondered if you might know anything about it." Lucy's eyes widened slightly, but her expression softened. She placed her garden trowel into the dirt with a quiet sigh. "My father was Jasper Mortimer," she said with a wistful smile. "He arrived in Acorn Alley around 1953, I believe. I was just a young girl then. He had big ideas and a certain flair." She paused, almost as if weighing whether to continue. "My father believed in excitement and mystery, but he wasn't a criminal. He loved illusions and theatrics, yes, but it wasn't anything sinister. Though some folks did whisper that he was running some grand swindle." Amelia felt a thrill of anticipation. "May I ask what exactly people thought he was up to?" Lucy gazed into the distance. He told everyone he would paint a mural that would bring tourists attention and prosperity to our modest community. He pitched the idea during the festival, persuading the mayor, business owners, orchard families, all to invest in the project. People pooled together money, materials, time. Then, one day, Father vanished. The mural remained unfinished, and so many rumors floated around about what actually happened. Amelia's heart thumped with the sense of an unfolding mystery. That might be the con the scrapbook referred to. But did people lose their money, she asked, or was there some other story behind it? Lucy's eyes crinkled with a smile. I might be able to clarify more if we talk at my home. I have some letters of my father's that might reveal the truth. Stop by this evening. We'll have tea. And with that she returned to her gardening. After returning home, Amelia showered, changed into a comfortable sweater, and arrived at Lucy Mortimer's cosy cottage around dusk. The little house had lace curtains in every window, and the living room smelled faintly of lavender and fresh-baked bread. Lucy collected 2 steaming cups of tea from her kitchen and set them on the small wooden table. A crocheted doily that Lucy must have made herself rested under each cup. The gently ticking grandfather clock in the corner lent the space a peaceful air. Amelia perched on the floral print sofa. Lucy brought forth a small wooden box. Inside were letters, some typed, some handwritten. My father was a dreamer, Lucy began, unfolding a letter that crackled beneath her fingers, and believed art could change people's fortunes. When he came to Acorn Alley, everyone faced hardship. The orchard's yield was down, the train routes were about to be discontinued. People felt a collective anxiety. She glanced at Amelia, who listened closely. So he concocted this grand production, a way to convince the outside world that Acorn Alley was a hidden gem. Amelia remembered the old clipping, referencing a hush-hush arrangement. What was the plan exactly? Father decided that to grab attention, the whole town needed to create a stir, a story so captivating that journalists and investors would flock here. He would paint a stunning public mural depicting Acorn Alley's glorious past and an even brighter future. Meanwhile, the townsfolk would fabricate a rumor that hidden gold, left behind by railroad tycoons, had been discovered in the orchard. He convinced them that once the national press picked up on the rumor and the breathtaking new artwork, visitors would flock in, possibly saving the economy. Amelia's eyes grew round. That's the con. The rumor about hidden gold was never real? Lucy shook her head. It was just a tall tale. The entire town participated, from the mayor to local shopkeepers. Maybe it seems dishonest, but people were desperate, claimed sightings of old treasure maps, mysterious lumps of gold in the creek. The plan was to have the new mural unveiled just as city reporters arrived, so the story would be about more than just gold. People would discover a beautiful, vibrant, can-do town, one worth investing in. And it worked, at least, somewhat. Amelia recalled the article about a hush-hush arrangement that gave Acorn Alley a strange windfall. So the con wasn't meant to be malicious, but rather a trick to grab much-needed attention. And what about Jasper disappearing? A gentle sadness coloured Lucy's voice. Father fell ill. He was diagnosed with pneumonia, but he didn't want the town to know. He was afraid it would derail all the excitement. He left abruptly for treatment at a specialized hospital in another state, telling only my mother. Sadly, his condition worsened. He passed away before he could complete the mural. She placed a trembling hand over her heart. My mother never told the town the real reason for his disappearance. Then came gossip that father had run off with the money, that he was a crook. People never discovered the full truth. A few folks must have realized the entire con was orchestrated by consensus, but over time the real story was lost. Amelia's heart ached at Lucy's disclosure. I'm so sorry. It must have been difficult for your family as rumors ran wild. Lucy shrugged gently. In a way, Father's plan did work. Journalists did come, tourism rose a bit, and the orchard harvest improved. Some new businesses moved in, and Acorn Alley sustained itself. Meanwhile, no one ever reopened that old rumor about the hidden gold. They treated it as a curious myth, long since debunked. The incomplete mural was eventually torn down, so there's little evidence it ever existed. The scrapbook you found must have been someone's personal record of that time. Perhaps they wrote the truth in coded hints. Amelia sipped her tea, soaking in every word. She thought of the enthusiastic townspeople, the sense of community spirit, everyone pulling together to tell a fib for the greater good. An odd notion, but in context, perhaps understandable. Has anyone ever asked you more about it? She finally asked. Lucy shook her head. No one's been interested for decades. Most who participated are gone or too old to remember. But I'm glad you're asking. It's about time the truth came out. Father wasn't a con artist. He was a visionary who used theatrics to save the place he loved. Clearly the rest of the town played a part. A grand con indeed. But it was also a grand demonstration of hope. In the days that followed, Amelia couldn't get the scrapbook or Lucy's explanation out of her mind. Brimming with compassion for Lucy, she felt compelled to clear Jasper's name. If only the entire town knew how heroic he actually was. After all, it's not every day that an entire community once joined forces to stage something this elaborate. Perhaps there was a way to revive the memory of the unfinished mural, or do something new with it. She started by researching the building that once housed Jasper's unfinished masterpiece, a large barn near the orchard's entrance. According to old records, the local farmland had since been sold to the Redwood family, who used the land mostly for storing seasonal equipment. Amelia decided to swiftly pay them a visit and see if any trace of the mural remained. The Redwood farm lay just beyond a curve in the road, flanked by graceful sycamores. The orchard's blossoms had waned, leaving a carpet of crisp leaves. Henry Redwood, a tall, bespectacled man, greeted her kindly. He showed her the large barn, with peeling red paint and wide double doors. Inside, the air smelled of old hay, and dust motes danced in the shafts of sunlight. "Feel free to look around," Henry said. "We haven't touched the walls since we bought the place, aside from removing some rotted boards." Amelia's pulse quickened. She peered into the dim interior, scanning for any trace of paint. At first she saw only weathered planks. Then, near the far end, behind an upturned plough, she glimpsed faint splashes of colour on the wooden boards. She approached, wiping away thick cobweb, and revealed a portion of what looked like a meadow scene, slightly peeling. A silhouette of a tree, a half-moon near the top. This had to be part of Jasper Mortimer's mural. In its time it must have been vibrant. Now it was ghostly, an echo of an ambitious dream. Amelia pressed a hand on the barn wall, her heart thrumming with inspiration. She hurried back to Henry Redwood. "This is it, the beginning of the mural Jasper Mortimer wanted to finish decades ago." Lucy told me the story behind it. "It's more than just a painting. It's the last project of a man who wanted to save this town." She glanced at Henry. "Would you consider letting me restore it, or have someone restore it? I think it might be a wonderful heritage project for Acorn Alley. People should know about this part of our history." Henry's face brightened. He took off his hat and scratched his head. "Well, we were never sure what to do with that unfinished painting, but if you're willing to lead the way, I'd be glad to see it restored." Over the next few days, Amelia worked with the PTA, whose members eagerly offered help, and reached out to the county's Arts Council. Old photos from the scrapbook provided references for how the mural might have looked in its prime. Several artists volunteered to assist. Bit by bit, news spread throughout Acorn Alley that Amelia Finch was spearheading the revival of Jasper Mortimer's mural. Rumours popped up anew, not about hidden gold this time, but about a teacher who had discovered a hidden piece of the town's identity. As volunteers scraped away grime and carefully repainted the faded images, Lucy Mortimer arrived one afternoon, leaning heavily on a cane. She watched quietly, tears sparkling in her eyes, as she recognized the color palette her father adored. Rich russets and warm browns that captured the orchard's earthiness, teal-tinged sky that always reminded him of dawn. It was as if he was present once more, painting with them. Soon, local journalists became interested. A small article appeared in the newspaper praising the effort to revive a forgotten mural and telling snippets of Jasper's story. When Lucy was quoted, explaining her father's true motives, something shifted in the town's collective memory. A wave of understanding and empathy followed. Older residents realized there was no runaway conman, and younger ones discovered a deeper sense of pride in Acorn Alley's ability to come together for a cause, even if it once took the form of an elaborate ruse. On a bright Saturday, the whole town gathered at the orchard's old barn for the grand unveiling of the restored mural. Bales of hay formed makeshift seating, and a small stage stood at the barn's entrance. The sweet smell of apple cider drifted through the air. Shops had closed early so owners could join. Families strolled over with excitement, children skipping at their parents' sides. A hush fell as Lucy Mortimer stepped forward, supported by Amelia and Henry Redwood. "Good afternoon," Lucy began. "I was just a little girl when my father started this project. He had a dream for this town to see it thrive in any way it could, even if it meant spinning tales that might attract attention. In the end, his greatest wish was to bring people together." Her voice faltered. Amelia offered a soft nudge of encouragement. "I only recently found out how hard he tried, and how he never meant to trick anyone for personal gain. Thank you, Amelia, for discovering the truth and restoring my father's masterpiece." Applause rippled through the crowd. Sniffles of emotion mingled with cheers. Lucy gently cut a ribbon strung across the barn doors, unveiling the vibrant panorama inside. Flowers in bloom, orchard rows rolling into the horizon, men and women working together. At the top, a rising sun cast warm rays upon everything. Jasper Mortimer's signature was lovingly repainted in one corner. The place erupted in renewed applause. Cameras clicked, but beyond the photographs, a sense of reconciled history pervaded that moment, as if the town forgave a misunderstanding half a century old. Amelia felt a rush of satisfaction. She glanced around at the faces glowing with wonder. The orchard's leaves swayed overhead, and she glimpsed Catherine Liu, Harriet from the pie shop, and parents of her students nodding with approval. No hidden gold was ever found, but the real treasure turned out to be the collective pride and unity that blossomed anew in Acorn Alley. As folks lingered, Lucy quietly pressed a short note into Amelia's hand. "This was tucked inside the scrapbook," she whispered. Amelia unfolded it, revealing a line in Jasper's handwriting. "Art, like hope, is a bridge to tomorrow." A lump of gratitude rose in Amelia's throat. It wasn't just a puzzle solved, it was a wrong righted, a dream rekindled. The Grand Con was, in truth, a grand gesture, an imaginative attempt to protect a place dear to so many hearts. That evening, after the festivities wound down and the last rays of sun glinted across the orchard's rippling leaves, Amelia returned to her tidy home and slipped the scrapbook back into its cloth wrapper. She felt a serene sense of completion. Tomorrow, she decided, she would share the scrapbook with her students, letting them see how history can be more than just dusty events in a textbook. It can be living secrets, loyal hopes, incomplete paintings brought back to life. She was sure they would love learning how, decades ago, the entire town worked together in the name of something bigger than themselves. In the quiet, she found her thoughts drifting. What if something like that happened again? Another group effort to attract attention, to preserve Acorn Alley's well-being? Knowing her neighbours, Amelia suspected it wouldn't take a rumour of hidden gold to inspire the same spirit of solidarity. All they needed was a powerful shared purpose, and perhaps a little creative spark. With that comforting notion, she set the scrapbook on her antique sideboard, her heart full, and prepared for a well-earned rest. The next day would surely bring new lessons, new mysteries, and fresh glimpses into just how strong a small community can be when it believes in itself.